the Arizona sun beat down on Williams Air Force Base. Rows of sleek fighters sat waiting. For most, this was just another class, another crop of hopefuls trying to earn their wings. But this time, 10 faces stood out from the rest. Faces the Air Force had never seen in that role before. This is the story of Undergraduate Pilot Training Class 77-08, and the 10 women who didn't just volunteer for an experiment. They stepped into the cockpit to prove that the skies belong to anyone with the courage and the skill to claim it. Welcome back to Aero Exploration. My name is Jim, and thank you for joining me on another installment of This Week in Aviation History. This time around, we're talking about the 10 women who jumped into the cockpit for the first time as part of the U.S. Air Force's Undergraduate Pilot Training Program. To really grasp the magnitude of this achievement, though, we have to rewind the clock. For nearly 30 years, that's 3 decades after the Air Force became its own service, women were still excluded from certain pilot training. Sure, there was the legendary Women Air Force Service Pilots, or WASPs, and they had historically flown non-combat missions during World War II, but they were civilian pilots. It wasn't until 1977 that their critical contributions during the war were even recognized and giving them now veteran status. That just so happens to be the very same year that our story hits its climax. The prevailing attitude at the times was a stubborn belief that women's place was simply not in the cockpit of high-performance aircraft. But the 1970s were a decade of massive change. With the end of the Vietnam War and a switch to an all-volunteer force, the military had to rethink its old structure. So in 1975, the Air Force Chief of Staff, General David C. Jones, announced what was a groundbreaking test program. The goal here is to see if women could actually make it through the notoriously brutal Undergraduate Pilot Training, or UPT. So the call goes out for female officers already serving in other fields. We're talking nurses, maintenance officers, and engineers, looking for volunteers for this test program. It's seen as a huge gamble, an experiment that carried the weight of history on its shoulders. As Lieutenant Colonel Mary Donahue, one of the 10 students, would later say, "We all felt tremendous self-induced pressure. We knew if we did not make it, after all, it was a test program, others following it would not be given the opportunity. We would not allow ourselves to fail. We had to make it for them." This wasn't about just learning to fly. It was about kicking down a locked door so that generations of women could walk and fly right through it. So on September 26, 1976, at Williams Air Force Base in Arizona, the experiment officially began. 10 women stood shoulder to shoulder with 36 male classmates, all ready to take on the same grueling 48-week course. They would face over 210 hours in the air, mastering the T-37 Tweet and the supersonic T-38 Talon. They faced the exact same physical and mental demands, the same academic rigors, but with an invisible burden: the intense scrutiny of a military and a nation, seeing if they would succeed. Failure here wasn't just a personal setback. It was a potential verdict on all women looking to fly. Ultimately, they didn't fail. They soared and excelled beyond expectations. And these are their stories. Captain Engel was an Air Force brat and a born leader. She initially joined the service as a nurse in 1971. She would then move on to become the only OBGYN nurse practitioner in the entire Air Force. Despite loving her job, she seized a new opportunity for adventure when the call for pilots came. In UPT Class 77-08, she was the class leader, the first woman to solo in the T-37 and the first to lead a 2-ship formation. Her performance was so exceptional that she graduated as the Distinguished Graduate and received the Air Training Command's Commander's Trophy as the top overall graduate. But her journey doesn't stop there. Engel became the first female T-38 instructor pilot and flew the T-38 chase planes for the Space Shuttle program and other test flights at Edwards Air Force Base, a hub for aerospace innovation. She would retire as a lieutenant colonel and would continue to fly on in commercial aviation. Captain Kathy LaSauce. Before she was a pilot, Kathy LaSauce was a high school English teacher from New York who felt a patriotic pull to do more. She would join the Air Force in 1972, and because women couldn't fly, became one of the first women in the Aircraft Maintenance Officer course. This role would give her a deeper mechanical knowledge of aviation. After earning her wings, she would go on to shatter one record after another. She became the first woman to command a mighty C-141 Starlifter cargo jet, logging over 3,000 hours in the aircraft. She was the first woman assigned to the prestigious 89th Airlift Wing, the squadron that supports the president, where she flew world leaders like Margaret Thatcher. Unfortunately, a multiple sclerosis diagnosis later cut her flying career short. She would still become the first female commander of an aerial port squadron, before later retiring as a lieutenant colonel. Christine Schott had dreamed of flying since childhood, and had about 12 hours of private pilot flying time before joining the program. During training, she would carve her name into the history books by becoming the first woman in class to solo the T-38 Talon. This moment would demonstrate that women could handle the speed and power of advanced jets. After graduation, she was assigned to fly the C-9A Nightingale, the Air Force's flying hospital. There she became the first woman in the Air Force to officially qualify as an aircraft commander. She had made history again by commanding the first all-female C-9 air crew on a medical evacuation flight. With a background in mathematics from Bridgewater State and Purdue University, Mary Donahue from Boston brought a formidable analytical mind to the cockpit. Her academic skills were legendary. During training, she missed only one single question out of the 395 questions on the formal exams, earning her the class's academic award. After her graduation, Donahue became the first female instructor pilot assigned to the U.S. Air Force Academy. There, she didn't just teach senior cadets how to fly the T-41 trainer, she also taught the Department of Mathematical Sciences, blending her two passions and embodying the officer, scholar, aviator ideal. Hailing from Wilmington, Delaware, Susan Rogers began her Air Force career as a nurse in 1972. She would discover her passion for flying at the base's flying club, which drove her to volunteer for the UPT class. After earning her wings, she would also be assigned to fly the C-9 Nightingale, but also the massive C-141 Starlifter. Her service would place her at another pivotal moment in history. In October 1983, following a devastating terrorist attack on Marine barracks in Beirut, Lebanon, Rogers was landing her C-141 and was instrumental in evacuation of the wounded. She flew directly into that crisis zone to save lives. Her skill and bravery under unimaginable pressures were a testament to her character. Tragically, Susan Rogers' life was cut short by cancer in 1992, but she left an incredible legacy of selflessness. As another one of the Air Force brats, whose father was a career non-commissioned officer, Victoria Crawford grew up with service in her blood. Before her pilot training, she was a missile maintenance officer, which gave her valuable management experience. After graduation, she flew the T-43, a military's version of the 737 used to train navigators. Her career was a showcase of quiet, steady excellence, the true backbone of the Air Force. She would serve as an aircraft commander, instructor pilot, and supervisor of flying, roles requiring not just incredible skill, but complete trust of her commanders and crew. After 8 years on active duty, she would separate as a captain and later retired from the reserves as a major. Sandra Scott from Forest Grove, Oregon, joined the ROTC program at Oregon State University just a year after it opened up to women. Her dream of flying was sparked while she served as a weapons controller in Alaska, watching pilots on alert missions. After graduation, she would make her mark on the Cold War. Assigned to the Strategic Air Command, she became the first female tanker commander to stand alert duty. This meant that she was now one of those pilots who stood by on alert for a moment's notice scramble of the KC-135 stratotanker. This is a crucial aerial refueling plan that was a cornerstone of America's nuclear deterrent, thus placing a woman at the very heart of the nation's strategic defense. Hailing from Springfield, Oregon, Catherine Shearer had a background in weather, which made her a natural fit for her post-graduation assignment. She would become a WC-130 Hercules pilot, flying weather reconnaissance missions into hurricanes. Her job was to fly directly into the heart of these dangerous storms to gather critical weather data, a mission demanding incredible nerve and precision. After the Air Force, she had a long career as a commercial airline pilot, flying numerous aircraft, including the Boeing 777, internationally for over 20 years. Mary Livingston was another one of these 10 history makers. She entered the program as a second lieutenant, the most junior rank of her female classmates. This simple, daily presence of women like Livingston in the demanding world of UPT chipped away at decades of prejudice held by male classmates and instructors. Her competence and professionalism were seen as undeniable. Kathleen Rambo from Arlington, Virginia, completed the roster of the 10 female trailblazers. Like her classmates, her story is woven into the larger fabric of the class itself. Every hour she logged, every exam she passed, and every maneuver she perfected all added to the undeniable proof that the Air Force was looking for. After graduation, she was assigned to fly the C-141 Starlifter. The Air Force had set up an experiment, and these 10 women delivered the answers. Kathleen Rambo and all of the women of UPT Class 77-08 didn't just earn their wings, they earned a permanent place for women in the sky. So on September 2nd, 1977, the graduation of this class wasn't just a ceremony. It was a seismic shift in military culture. The success of this test program was so overwhelming that the Air Force immediately made female pilot training a permanent program. All 10 women who started the program graduated, and this was a testament to their skill and determination. The success of these women created a powerful ripple effect. While policy would bar the first women from flying into official combat roles, their stellar performance in non-combat aircraft, often in direct support in places like Grenada and Panama, laid the groundwork for those that would come later. This would prove essential in the long fight to overturn the combat exclusion policy, a battle finally won in 1983. This decision further opened the cockpit doors for every bomber and fighter in the Air Force inventory to women. The women of Class 77-08 had cracked the glass ceiling, and less than 2 decades later, it shattered completely. They would pass the torch to women like Brigadier General Jeannie Leavitt, who became the Air Force's first female fighter pilot in 1993. Colonel Nicole Malachowski would become the first female Thunderbird pilot, soaring in that beautiful diamond formation. Today, the legacy of those women is honored at Joint Base San Antonio Randolph. The Air Education Training Command has dedicated the Trailblazer Room in their name, making sure that the new generation of airmen understand the courage it took to be the first. In 2016, the entire class was inducted into the Women Aviation International Pioneer Hall of Fame. Their story isn't just a piece of history, it's living and breathing inspiration. Thank you so much for coming along on this journey through aviation history. If you were inspired by the stories of these incredible trailblazers, please hit that like button and subscribe for more stories of military pioneers who changed the world. And let us know in the comments, who's another military pioneer whose story we should feature next? Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on Aero Exploration.